The Boston Celtics defense is good, but not great. There are 3 things they can do to make it better, and they are all in Boston's control. It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Beantown, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back, if I say it, it's stamped. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's, who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis, recap the madness. Every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Clutch like Drew to KP, tap in daily. Primetime Devin D. White on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. I'm here for you Monday through Friday. This week, sort of Monday through Friday. This is the Thursday show. Thursday is Thanksgiving in the United States. So those of you who are listening and celebrating and getting ready for a feast, happy Thanksgiving. For the rest of you, happy Thursday. I am not, because I am in the United States, I am not going to be recording on the holiday. I'm going to be enjoying the day with my family. And so I will record the Friday podcast after the Friday game against the Chicago Bulls. Normally that would be a bonus podcast, but that's just going to be the regular Friday podcast. So now that you know, you can subscribe. You can get the show directly to your device. You can watch on the YouTube channel. You can get into the comment section. Let me know what you're thinking. I am John Karalis. I have been covering the Celtics for about 20 years now, and I'm doing it now as the beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. I'm also the author of Built Different. This book and my other book, The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars, available on johnkaralis.com. $30, signed, personalized. You tell me what you wanted to say within reason. I will sign it. I will send it out to you. Great Christmas gift, great holiday gift, great birthday gift. Order now. I got plenty of books. They can go out immediately, and they can be there in time for Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate or whatever gift-giving occasion you want to give. So go to johnkaralis.com and order that book. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers, you can place a $5 bet. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today's show is all about the defense. Defense. Celtics defense has been good. It has not been great. There are 3 factors in making this defense great. I won't say great again. I'm just going to say making it great. Later on, we'll talk about the effort portion. Celtics probably not giving their best defensive effort. Maybe that should be first, but I'm going to save that for last. Scheme is the second one. This is an important one. And how the defense, the points in the paint numbers, are kind of a cousin of the Celtics' three-point shooting numbers. But first, I think the biggest factor, Kristaps Porzingis is back, and we're starting to see a shift, I think, with Kristaps back. Now, the Celtics, let's be honest, they are able to outscore teams, and the way they can put up points, that is a big reason why the Celtics are fine when it comes to defense. Their defense is 8th in the league. Their offense is 3rd. Their point differential, their net rating is 10.7. That's 3rd. If you filter out the garbage time, their net rating is somewhere up above 12, still 3rd. So they are 3rd in the league in net rating, which is the difference between your offensive and defensive rating. The Celtics, so basically 10.7 per 100 possessions, they are outscoring other teams by 10.7 points. When you have the 3rd ranked offense and the 8th ranked defense, you're a really good team. You're a championship contender. And there are other metrics that show that they're fine, right? This is an offensive league right now. So what we think of as good defense, maybe historically, is not going to be what we see as quote unquote good defense. Other teams are going to score, but Kristaps Porzingis returning is going to make a difference. He comes in, he challenges 10 2-point shots, and his defensive rating, the Celtics defensive rating when he was on the floor, and it was just 22 and a half minutes. The Celtics defensive rating when he was on the floor was 92.2. So they currently as a team through 18 games have a defensive rating of 110.2. And that's 8th in the league. With Porzingis in this one game, just one game. So it's obviously not something you hang your hat on, but right away, the defensive rating was 92.2. So that is at least a sign that, okay, Porzingis is here. He's going to challenge. He's going to make a difference. He's going to help cut some of those points in the paint. That play that I keep harping on with Jaylen Brown, who played incredible defense on Chris Dunn until the very end when he just kind of let Dunn go baseline. And if Porzingis wasn't there, who knows how it would have gone. But because Porzingis was there and he got that big, two-hand vertical, swallowed him up, got that block shot, that's just the narrative after that is like, wow, Porzingis is here to shore up the defense, and there's your example. If he wasn't there, it might have been a score, and we would have said 23 seconds of great defense gives way to a 1 second lapse, and they score. And that's part of the problem with the Celtics. But Porzingis comes in and immediately changes that. And not only does he change that, it changes the substitution pattern. So Horford comes in as the first sub, and he comes in for Jayson Tatum. And maybe you have Hauser and Pritchard come in a little bit later, but if Horford comes in for Tatum or Horford comes in for Jaylen Brown, I'm very curious to see how this goes. I think he comes in for Jaylen Brown, and then naturally Jaylen subs back in with Porzingis later, right? So I think Porzingis stays in for a little bit. Horford comes in and plays with Porzingis for a little bit. Then Porzingis comes out. Then Brown comes in. Then Porzingis comes back to start the second. And you've got that Brown-Porzingis pairing. That's how I think the rotation is going to go. But a double big lineup of Horford and Porzingis naturally protects the rim a whole lot more. So the points in the paint, I think it's going to level off. So Porzingis coming back immediately changes what other teams are going to do, how often they're going to drive, how successful they're going to be on drives, and also substitution pattern wise, he's going to be in the game a lot more. Horford's going to be in the game with him. You're going to see some double big lineups. They're not going to be playing small. They're not going to go small as much when they do. So the biggest, most obvious thing is Porzingis is back. The defense will shore up. They will not be giving up this parade of points to the paint. At the same time, there is a scheme involved where if you're saying, no, you need to cut off all the points in the paint, it's actually not what the Celtics want to do. They are much more focused on running teams off the 3-point line. And this is where I say the points in the paint is sort of a cousin to the Boston Celtics 3-point attempt statistic. Let me explain that when I come back. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Tackle NFL action. Get into NBA action right now. If you are a new customer and you sign up at FanDuel.com, you can get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Place any $5 bet. Now, I admit I'm much more judicious in my sports betting. I got sucked into the Mike Tyson thing. I placed my bet on Mike Tyson. I should not have. That was not a smart $5 bet. You can place a much smarter $5 bet. Maybe you get a hunch in the middle of a game and you say, this is where I'm going to do it. You can check the latest stats. You can get a live play-by-play. You can do a whole lot more on the same page where you place your bets. So go to FanDuel.com and join today. Use the tools that they have available to you. Use the tools to set your budget, set your limits, so you can just have fun. You know what you're willing to spend. You know what you're okay with losing if for some reason these things don't hit. You can gamble responsibly and just have fun at FanDuel.com. But if your first $5 bet hits, you get those 150 in bonus bets at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you so much for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out the newsletter. Yes, we have a newsletter now at LockedOnDaily.com. One stop for the ultimate team and league coverage directly to your inbox. Sign up at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. Start your day with a all new, free Locked On Celtics newsletter. Okay, so Porzingis clearly changes things with the defense. The scheme is going to be where we see why the defense kind of is what it is. Yes, Porzingis is going to change things, but shooting variance was one of Joe Mazzulla's biggest fears last season. He said it multiple times. When you play a team like the Pacers, who get a bunch of shots up from three, if they get hot, then it's hard to shake those teams free. It's hard to build a lead because if they are hitting from three, then your 8-point lead gets cut down to 2 in 2 shots. So you can't, it's harder to give up a couple of baskets and then come back and hit your own and pull away. So the Celtics defensive scheme is designed to take away shooting variance, which means they are running teams off the 3-point line and they are living with 2-pointers. Now, should they be living with all of these 2-pointers? No. That's the room for improvement. But look at these numbers. The Celtics opponents are shooting 34.5 3-pointers per game at 34%. Last season, they were shooting 37.1 at 35%. So they were hitting 11.7. They're hitting 11.7 this year. They were hitting 13 last year. Meanwhile, the Celtics have gone the other way. They started out last season through 18 games, 15.6 of 43.3 up to 18.9 of 50.6. So they're shooting 7 more 3-pointers per game, and they're making more than 3 3-pointers per game. If a team is going to match Boston's 18.9 3-pointers per game average, based on what the Celtics are giving up on average, 34.5 shots per game, they will have to shoot 55% from 3 to match Boston from 3. That is so incredibly difficult to do. So the Celtics are eliminating that shooting variance. I'll make it simpler. By giving up 11.7 3-pointers per game and averaging, that's made 3-pointers per game, and averaging 18.9 made 3-pointers per game. That's 7 more 3-pointers per game on average. So you can count on, the Celtics can count on 7 more 3-pointers per game plus 21 every night. You can kind of count on the Celtics having a 21-point advantage from the 3-point line. That means if you're going to start shooting from 2, you got to be blistering hot. And the 60 3-point or 2-pointers that they're giving, in fact, they're averaging 53.8 points per game allowed in the paint, which is a big number. And they're scoring 39.7. So there's a difference of 14. They're being outscored by 14 in the paint, but they're outscoring teams by 21 at the 3. That's a 7-point difference. You're giving yourself a 7-point lead, and the rest of the game is mid-rangers and free throws, where the Celtics are fine. So that's where this defensive focus is for the Celtics. They are hyper-focused on running teams off the 3-point line. They're third in opponent 3-point attempts allowed. Third best. That's something that they are willing to live with. So this is why I say points in the paint is kind of this weird cousin of the Celtics 63-point attempt games. It's a big number. It's a ridiculous number. It does need to get better, but those big points in the paint games are outliers. The 63-point attempt games are outliers. They're going to be more down towards the 50, which means, in the points in the paint, it's going to be more down towards the high 40s maybe, which is okay for the Celtics. You're going to have to give up points somewhere. They have to be better. They have to be better at allowing the layups. Brad Stevens was on the broadcast against the Clippers, and there were a couple of baskets in the second quarter where in the middle of the conversation, he goes, "Oh, another layup. Oh, another layup." It clearly bothers him. It very clearly bothers him. And it should bother him. It bothers us. It bothers the Celtics to a point there, because even though they want to allow the twos, you still have to challenge the twos. And this is where we're going to get into the effort and all of that stuff. The Celtics scheme is what it is. And the scheme might take a little bit of a hit with Porzingis out there, because the Celtics defense, knowing that Porzingis isn't back there, they want to make sure that they weren't giving up the 3-pointers. And without Porzingis back there, that kind of allowed that parade to the rim. Now Porzingis is playing, and maybe because one less guy is out at the perimeter, maybe a couple more 3-pointers are allowed, and that's something you have to live with. We'll see. Just keep an eye now from Thanksgiving moving forward. When the Celtics play on Friday, and when the Celtics play, basically 6 games in 9 nights over this next week, let's look at these next 6 box scores. Maybe revisit it after that last game and see if the points in the paint and the 3-point attempts have changed a bit. If the Celtics allowed a few more 3-point attempts, and if they've allowed a few fewer points in the paint, specifically the restricted area. But also remember that there are outlier performances too, like who was it? Drawing a blank, but they've given up shots where they were comfortable and they were hitting everything, and that the swings are very wild with only an 18 game sample. When we get to 28 and 38 and 48 games, things will level off a little bit. But so now Porzingis is a factor. The scheme, the Celtics are trying to run teams off the 3-point line, which pushes them into 2-point area. Now let's factor in effort and why the Celtics might be struggling a little bit, or might have been struggling with, hey, you're the champs. People are coming at you. And if they can fix that effort, now the scheme makes much more sense. We'll talk about that in just a second. Today's show is brought to you by Skylight. The Skylight frame is a great choice for a unique gift. If you're missing somebody this holiday season, maybe gift giving isn't your love language, you overthink it. This is a great idea. Or maybe you're trying to find a gift for a group of people. The Skylight frame is a perfect gift idea. It is the touchscreen digital photo frame your whole family is going to love. You can upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. I have one already. So I know, like, my wife and I will take pictures, and if she likes the one that I've taken, I can just open up the app, upload it, boom, it shows up in the frame very quickly. Because it's touchscreen, you can kind of scroll through it. It's very easy to, if you want to go back to a certain picture, you want to see one. I forgot about that one. Swipe, swipe, swipe. But one of the great things you can do here is, if you want to give it to a parent, a grandparent, you just hook it up to their Wi-Fi. You gotta get that hooked up. And every time you take a picture of your kids or of yourselves, and you want to just upload it to the app, it shows up in their frame instantly. So they wake up the next day like, oh, wow, new pictures of my grandkids. What a perfect gift that is. And right now, as a special limited time offer for our listeners, you can get $20 off your purchase of a skylight frame when you visit skylightframe.com/NBA. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/NBA. Get $20 off your purchase right now at skylightframe.com/NBA. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA. I'm hosting Friday nights, Locked On NBA Game Night with Jake Madison. I will have the Friday show here on Locked On NBA with Jake. We're going to do Black Friday. We're going to do a Black Friday show on Black Friday. So check it out. Locked On NBA. There's 2 podcasts there per day. So check it out. It's a great little way to keep up with the league, keep up with all the games over there at Locked On NBA. Okay, so I've talked about Porzingis. I've talked about scheme. Effort's the last element to this. Effort for the Celtics is maybe the biggest thing when it comes to the defense. I'm not 100% sold on the Celtics giving maximum effort. I don't think the Celtics have been looking at these games and thinking, oh yeah, this is a game I really want to care about defensively. I think the Celtics have their offense in mind first. I think they believe that they can outscore teams, and it's been proven that they can. I think they can shoot their way past teams, and we've seen them get decimated in the paint and still win. But more so, I'm not so sure the Celtics have been ready for the other team's best punch every night. I'm not so sure they've been ready for just how hard teams are going to go after them at the early part of this season. They're the champs. They are the measuring stick. This is the hard part when it comes to being a champion, understanding that these other teams are coming at you with everything they have. A team like Toronto, which is a try-hard team, they're coming out trying harder at everything against the Celtics and making it difficult. And I'm sure the Celtics are like, we know what typical November basketball is. We'll just do that again. And other teams are like, nah, you're the Celtics. You're the cream of the crop. We are going to come at you. This is our NBA finals, right? Teams like Toronto, who maybe will make the play-in, maybe Atlanta, especially without Trae Young. Like, those teams are coming at Boston wanting to prove something, and they're getting it every night. And I think this is an amazing kind of test for the Celtics to be like, oh, okay, we can't relax the way we thought we could and get away with it the same way we could have last year. So effort is a definite part of this. I would say if these 18 games the Celtics have played, and if they happened starting in, April or May, and this was 18 playoff games, I don't think the defensive numbers would be at 110 per 100 possessions. I think it would be like 105, 106. Last year it was at 107. I think they'd be somewhere around there. Remember, last year they came in embarrassed after the Miami series. This year they're coming in as champs. So last year there was a whole lot more effort. They had a whole lot more to prove. And we've talked about this. We've talked about how the championship hangover and this feeling of like, we got this. Maybe they're a little bit bored. They're ready for the playoffs already. We're all ready for the playoffs already. So there's some little element of that for sure. The effort has not been there completely. Does Porzingis change that a little bit? Maybe they feel like with him there, they could be a little bit more aggressive, and maybe that amps things up, and maybe hitting a bunch more shots. Maybe the offense getting a little bit more efficient gets them playing better defense. Everything's connected. And when you're hitting shots, you want to play better defense because you want to get the ball back, right? Like, that's a natural thing to happen. When you're out there, think about when Jaylen Brown was hitting all of those shots the other day. his first 5 3-pointers. What was he doing? He's defending his butt off. He was in there getting steals. He was out there really trying on defense because he's feeling it. You're like, yeah, get me that big defensive stop so we can get out there and score again. I want the ball on offense. So there's 2 things that are going to happen. You're either going to let the other team score, or you're going to bear down. If you think that your offense is going to carry you through, I can see once you get beat, stopping and being like, ugh, and not putting that extra effort. Right. And I don't think it's exclusive to the Celtics. We do have to understand that we've seen other teams do it. We've seen other teams have, like, you get beat and someone goes in for a layup, everybody just stops. Versus in the playoffs, every point counts. And so you're flying in, you're like, oh, I got to challenge this. You're just not going to get that same effort in November, especially before Thanksgiving. So I think when we look at the Celtics defense, those 3 things working together will, I don't even want to say turn things around, because the defense is not bad. The defense is fine, but we want it to be elite. We want this to be an elite defensive team to go with being an elite offensive team. So Porzingis back, the scheme, executing that scheme and putting in the effort, the Celtics will be, by the end of the season, they could easily be the number 1 offense and defense. Both. Not right now, but I will say we'll probably have a stat somewhere in April where I sit here and I say, well, since the All-Star break, the Celtics have had the number 1 offense and defense. Right? Like, I think that's very likely to happen. Mark that down. Mark that down. Were we almost 27 minutes into this podcast on Thanksgiving? Mark that down. Somebody mark it down and bring it back to me if that's correct, if I say it. So the offense is fine. Obviously, the offense is elite. Get that defense going from good to great, elite defense. This Celtics team is going to be an unstoppable juggernaut, like they're not already. That's the podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Remember, after a game, we have Locked On Celtics postcast. So Steve Lennox is going to fire up a live broadcast on the Locked On Sports Boston YouTube page. So go check that out after games. You can get into the comment section with him over there, live comments, and get onto the show. And then I will go through all the post-game stuff, write my columns, and get you a little bit more in-depth a podcast here. So both of those podcasts show up on the Locked On Celtics audio feed. They show up on separate YouTube pages, Locked On Sports Boston and Locked On Celtics. So just know that post-game, there's 2 podcasts there. So subscribe to both. I would love it if you're on this YouTube page, getting into that comment section, having a conversation with your fellow Celtics fans. There's a lot of great conversation going on in there. Sharing the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.